Well, first of all, we're going to start with who is Lois Koffi. Lois Koffi is a professional speaker, sales trainer, coach, best-selling author of Fearless Entrepreneurs, an Ironman triathlete that has coached thousands of people in business and healthy lifestyles for the last 22 years. She pivoted, like many in 2020, without having an email list or podcast or tribe online. She had to refocus on she had focused on face-to-face sales for over 20 years. She went from 0 sales online to 5 figures a month in less than 6 months. And I got to witness part of that journey, and it was amazing. She was able to do that with permission-based lead generation online, and now coaches, affiliate marketers, and speakers hire her to do the same, pivoting in 6 months, guaranteed to live their best life. She now is at multiple 5 figures a month in 9 months of starting at ground zero online. Today, she is going to share with us learning objectives. Learn the science behind the 12-week year. Set your personal and professional goals for January through March 2022. Set healthy boundaries for yourself, your business, and your family. And set up your ideal work week schedule. Soar into 2022 with confidence and compassion, releasing 2021 no matter what the results were. Lois, what else can I say besides you are flipping amazing, and I am so proud to not only be here with you, but to have you as a friend, even if you are in warm, sunny California right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate you taking time and being here and supporting me today. And that's what AGC is all about, is supportive friendships. I wouldn't have met Sean if it wasn't for AGC. So I'm super honored to have you here to be a part of this today. So I'll be bringing Sean back later because there will be a lot of questions, but I wanted to go ahead and dive right in because I do have a lot to share with you today. And even from the learning objectives that Sean shared, we're going to be really turning that fire hose open right now. So you will have the opportunity to comment below with questions, but just also know that we're going to have open Q&A after I share my talk as well. So please make sure you have something to write with and write on, and you can type those questions in, but I would actually save them until the end. So Sean shared a bit of my story, my journey through the pandemic. The pandemic really woke me up to working smarter, not harder. When the pandemic hit, I was really addicted to being a workaholic. I was actually doing too much. I thought I had to do. I became what Zig Ziglar and those guys called, a human doing. And so I really slowed down and I reflected, and it actually helped me in what I'm going to share with you today. So my hope is to inspire you, educate you, and then of course we'll get to the Q&A here in about 15 minutes. So again, like he shared, I am Lois Koffi. I am actually a speaker, a success coach, podcaster, but what we're talking about today, again, is soaring into 2022 with your best health and your best wealth and best wisdom. And the tools that I'm sharing with you today is from the 12-week year, something that I got certified in. If you haven't read the book, it's based on the science of periodization. It's based on peak performance and productivity. Again, working smart versus working hard. How many of you out there, and feel free to comment below, play along, how many of you would like to get more done in less time? Accomplish more with less? How is that possible? Well, I'm here to tell you from my own personal experience and after coaching thousands of people, both in health and in business. I've been a health and fitness person and coach and personal trainer, had my own gym for a while. And then I've also coached thousands of salespeople in business and sales. And I even went through, much success and had multiple 6 figures in one sales career, and then lost everything in the Great Recession, only to actually find my husband, find my children, start a family, and really come full circle in the pandemic. So I went from working really smart to working too much, trying to please everyone, trying to be a yes woman, I I think what I would call a different version of imposter syndrome, where I felt like I had to be perfect. I don't know if we have any recovering perfectionists out there, but that's what I thought I had to be in order to have, a really great life. But it was actually quite the opposite. I didn't have to do more. I had to just be more conscious and be more aware of what is the best way to spend my time. So Sean shared my story, a little bit of it. I went from no online sales, no online business, no tribe, no email list, no podcast, no income, by the way, to within 6 months, I hit my first 5-figure month, my first $10,000 month, again, starting from zero. And how did I do that? It was by following the principles of the 12-week year and what I'm sharing with you today. So there's 3 key components. We call this like your baseline strategy. Baseline is like ground zero. Baseline is your starting point, your point A. So I want you to go ahead and play along, write these things down. These are the 3 key things that the 12-week year will impress upon you and support you with if you read it and, of course, apply it. Number 1, you got to have accountability. And accountability is not a scary word. When I was a personal trainer, a lot of people was like, oh, accountability simply means ownership. It's taking ownership of what you want in life. It's taking ownership of your daily income producing activities. It's taking ownership for, when maybe you didn't do what you said you were going to do. And it's also okay. It's also commitment. Commitment is not just, being interested, right? Are you interested in something? And you're kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll try it out. No, we want you to be committed to your goals, committed to your dreams, committed to your purpose and your passion. And I know you probably can't see it super well on here, but it says commitment to tracking and reflection. That's going to be part of these nuggets that I shared with you today, because in order to be accountable, you also got to track and reflect on your numbers. Whether you've got a weight loss goal for 2022 and you stand on that scale, or you talk to your health coach and you're reflecting on it, and maybe it's not quite going the way you wanted to go, then guess what? You're not a tree. You're not planted in one stuck spot. You can change, you can move. And you can only do that by being committed to tracking and reflecting your goals and your numbers. And then, of course, number 3 is greatness in the moment. That's reflecting on where you're at and recognizing your greatness. Also owning your greatness. So that is a quick summary of the 3 foundational tenets of the 12-week year, and something that I fell in love with when I read the book. And it's what got me from zero to hero within 6-month time frame. And it's just kept going with that manifestation ever since. So what are the other breakdowns, the science inside of the 12-week year? Well, first and foremost, you got to have a vision. And you're like, yes, Lois, we've heard this all before. Well, I have to tell you, if you haven't accomplished what you said you wanted to, it's very likely that you're not reviewing your vision every day. You're not writing it out, or you're not maybe connecting to it. Your vision is why you're here. It's defined as the ability to see, this is from Webster's dictionary, the image or insight of how something could or should be in the future. And I don't even really like the words could or should. It's just your power, your passion, your ability, your vision. It's like that third eye. It's like your intuition that's guiding you. Are you connecting with that every day? There is a saying that if you don't have a vision, you will perish. And I know I use this example a lot. You may have heard my story before, but when I wanted to move to California from Minnesota, I had a vision. And I reviewed that vision every single day for 3 years, like clockwork. And boom, we manifested it. When the pandemic started, I had a vision of starting an online coaching business and getting to 5 figures a month within 6 months. Guess what? It happened. And I'm not saying that everything always happens. However, I will tell you the percentage of things that do manifest and happen and are fulfilled with myself, my clients, and what I talk to other peers and colleagues, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're connecting every day with their vision. Really quickly, part of vision is also what you don't write and what you don't say. It's also a part of that mindset. There's a spiritual law called the Boomerang Law. And a boomerang, if you're not from Australia, you've probably seen it in movies and things where it's that little, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like a triangle, but it's a tool that you could send out and it comes back again, right? It's almost like a Frisbee in some aspects, but it actually goes out and comes back. So you want to, no matter what life throws your way, and trust me, I'm talking to people every day about how challenging life can be right now. If we choose to stay there, even if you have this vision board, even if you've written out your vision one time, right? If underneath that, you're not grateful and you're feeling sorry for yourself and all of these things, what you put out comes back to you, right? So our game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. So it's not about even just writing out your vision every day. It's what are your thoughts? And are you sending them out? And how are they showing up and manifesting and coming back to you? Now, I'm not a huge fan of The Secret or the whole idea of behind the law of attraction. Sometimes it gets overused and misunderstood. And this is not inside of the 12-week year. However, it's just a reminder from Oprah herself, the more thankful she became. And trust me, she started out with a school of hard knocks and a lot of trauma and a lot of negativity in the industry that she started in and in television as a woman, a Black woman, right? But the more thankful she became, the more her bounty increased, because for sure what you focus on expands. So that goes back to commitment and accountability and ownership every day of reflecting on your vision, writing it out and going for it. So that's the foundational component of the science of periodization. Now, what I'd like you to do, if you haven't done already, this is probably going to be where in the future you're going to hit pause and take maybe 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes with this. We don't have that much time. But I want you to write down, what is your deepest hunger for 2022 for your business and your life? What is your 2022 vision for your business and your life? And I want you to write it out this way, okay? I am so happy and grateful, blank. Write that out. I am so happy and grateful. Don't just listen along, please. I'm going to just reinforce. I want you to play along and write this out. I'm so happy and grateful. I blank. Now, what does that look like? That could be, what is your income? So if you want to write down an income goal, it could be something along the lines of what I did. I launched a podcast. It launched in the top 20 in America, top 10 in 4 other countries, something specific and measurable. What do you want to create? Also, for your personal, is there maybe a relationship that you want to create or a partner that you want to find, or you want to improve your relationship with your children, or you want to shed some pounds, right? And when I say 2022 vision, business, and life, I'm not talking New Year's resolutions, okay? It's going to be important for you to pick one business and one personal, and I want you to write that out. I am so happy and grateful I have accomplished blank. And really connect with this. There's a quote that I have up on the screen by Frederick Buechner. The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. I really believe that people create New Year's resolutions just based on society, peer pressure, what they think they should do because their family said, or some TV commercial said, or whatever. That's not really what I want you to create. I want you to come from a place of hunger, true choice, true purpose, true passion. So you got it? Comment below if you want to share. I am so happy and grateful I weigh X amount of pounds. Or I'm so happy and grateful I have achieved blank income or blank amount of sales. Then And that's for the end of 2022. I don't know if I made that clear. That's 1 year from now, you've accomplished this. Okay. Then we're going to break down how you can get more done in 12 weeks than most people will do in 2022 in 12 months without this book, without this science, without this information. Are you ready? If you're ready, say I'm ready, as Jim Rohn said. Comment below. So now you have, and if you don't, please just do this later. Sit with this. You're going to want to come back and watch this again. You have one business goal and one personal goal for 2022. At the end of 2022, whenever you finish your year, whether it's, like December something or December 31st, if you want to say that, right? That's the end of 2022. So that's what happens at the end of 2022. However, now what I want you to do is create, and I'll give you a couple examples. What do you want for the first 12-week year? January, February, March. Some people would call that 90 days. Some people would call that a quarter. Well, if you read the book, again, The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran, that was on the second or third slide that I shared with you, he talks about the Olympians in the 1970s. This original book was written in the 80s, but the 70s, all the gold medalists were focused on the science of periodization. They trained at a high level, they rested and recovered at a high level, and they said no to the things that did not fit their training plan. I'm going to say that again. They trained and were 100% present with every workout, whatever was on their schedule. They rested and reflected at a high level and course corrected and maybe tweaked their training plan. And then, of course, they set healthy boundaries and said no to the things that did not serve them. So for me, for example, I went all in on the 12-week year when the pandemic started because I needed to make some money. I wanted to support my family. And being able to say, you know what, I'm just going to set 2 business goals and 1 personal goal allowed me to focus atop homeschooling and top grieving, dead family members, all of the things that were happening around me. And I know everyone has a lot happening around. I hear stories every day about the stresses of life in this world today. But if you focus on less with more intention, January, February, and March, you're going to get way more done in that 12 weeks than most do in 12 months. That's why when I coached athletes, we had 12 to 16 week training plans. People said no to the things that didn't fit into that schedule and yes to the things that did, and they rested and reflected. So if you only focused on, like me, for example, I want to have 12 weeks off in 2022. So my goals in the first 12-week year are pretty big. They're pretty focused. And so I want you to write one professional goal that takes a chunk out of your 2022. So if you have an income goal, let's say you want to make $100,000 in 2022, reverse engineer that. How can you start that? Do you want to, if you figure out that, let's say, just to make it easy math, like that'd be $8,000 to $10,000 a month, give or take. Maybe you don't do that in January, but by the end of that 12-week year, you've hit that 8 to 10 grand income goal. That would be one example. Personal goal, let's say you wanted to run a marathon by the end of 2022. Maybe in the first 12 weeks, you're training and you're running for your first 5K or a 5-mile run. So you're reverse engineering, but you're still committed. Instead of New Year's resolutions thinking is, I got the whole year to get there. And they oftentimes shoot themselves in the foot and give up by February 1st and give up on their goals and their dreams because they bit off more than they could chew. And it seems so far off. There's also that tendency to procrastinate. So write it out. Again, you may need to pause the button because I have to keep going. But that's the main idea behind the 12-week year. Just set 2 business goals and 1 personal for January, February, March. And then what? Then what? So I'm going to give you some examples, okay? So once you have your personal and professional goal, and again, read the book and watch this again, okay? But I know in 2020, one of my 12-week year goals was I wanted 20 coaching clients for online coaching, and I wanted to attract those clients through 200 speeches delivered in 90 days. I combination of webinars, Facebook Lives, podcasts I was on, my own podcast launch. So I was in it to win it. And guess what? I didn't have any other goals. If you can see, I didn't have a lot of additional room. I was sold out. I was committed and accountable, taking ownership. I have, of course, had a coach. That's another component of accountability. And I did a mind mapping exercise. So what you're going to do now, and you're going to want to take this with you because we were run out of time, but you circle each business goal. I'm just going to talk business for the moment. And you then draw out with ideas of what you could do to support those two goals. Okay. Again, the picture is not very big, but if you Google mind mapping, you'll understand. Again, you just draw the goal, write it in, and then do offshoots. And this is what happens. So I coach on lead generation and sales mastery using the 12-week year. So this is kind of a more of a goal on sales right here. But I had a goal to build my email list from 0 to 2,000 in 12 weeks, right? So one of the ways that I did that was I did a weekly webinar. I had daily messages I had to send people. I had daily phone calls I had to do. They were all things that I were committed to, and I was able to track and reflect. So do you have IPAs, stands for income producing activities, versus keeping yourself busy? You can spend a lot of time on Facebook, right? You can spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and get nowhere. Has anybody ever done that? Comment below if you can identify with that. However, if you have a very specific and measurable plan, tactics that supports the bigger goal, then you know how to put those on your calendar. How much time does it take to make 5 phone calls? Or will you spend 1 hour a day on lead generation? Or will you send out 1 to 2 emails per week to nurture your list to get sales calls booked? I just have some examples on here that I don't need to go through all of them, but you'll notice every one of these examples has a very specific and measurable tactic that supports the big goal. Okay, so let's say you wanted to make $10,000 in 3 months' time. How are you going to get there? Well, reverse engineer that. You got to make daily phone calls. You got to have daily touches. Daily. There's a phrase that one of my mentors taught me: I will blank until blank. If you have focused numbers and you can measure them, and then you know when you're done, instead of getting lost in Facebook, getting lost in LinkedIn, or just procrastinating and not committing yourself to doing the work. This is the tactics that supports the bigger goal. Same thing with your personal goal, your health and life. That's important. I know I've been there, done that, where I lost my health, and it was the most expensive lesson I'll ever have. It took me 5 years to regain it. Maybe you have a relationship that is strained. I know a lot of people whose relationships have either really improved because of the pandemic, or they've really gone the other direction. I've experienced both personally. So maybe you want to work on yourself and make 2022 your year where you do a lot of personal self-care, exercise, drinking half your body weight in ounces, spending 60 minutes of quality time with my children, husband, spouse, partner, sleep 7 or more hours per night. All of these, again, are measurable. And guess what? They can support your personal goal, and you only need 1, maybe 2 goals to really change your life, again, in just a 12-week period. If the Olympians won gold medals by focusing laser beam on this, I think you could hit and manifest your best year ever and soar into 2022 with a plan like this. So in summary, I want you to, go back and watch this again, because I only have 15 minutes, give or take, and I know I've gone a little bit over. Just remember this mantra. Maybe you can adopt this as your theme for 2022. This was my theme in 2021. Be more, do less. Read the 12-week year, which will help you create that ideal work week by having those goals, those big rocks, the tactics that support it over a compressed time frame where you can easier say no to things that don't serve you. There's a lot of people that want to distract you. There's a lot of cold calls and a lot of people and things that are trying to take your attention. But if you're really clear on what you want to create, the boundaries just show up. Focus on those big rocks. Focus on those two business and one personal goals. Be accountable, whether it's a coach or an accountability partner, a mastermind group, accountable, taking ownership of your own goals and dreams, and then be committed. I do want to share one more quick story at the end here, but I also wanted to talk about, choice management versus time management. There's really no such thing as time management. What the 12-week year is talking about is choice. You have a choice. You could do the same thing over and over, expect a different result, and that's the definition of what insanity, right? Or you can choose your time wisely, spend it wisely. Going back to my comment of be more and do less. So I wanted to just share with you one more thing. I know we're over time, but I'm hoping that maybe we can make up for that here in a little bit. But I wanted to be able to share a story that's near and dear to my heart that I put on the slide. It's called the mayonnaise jar and the 2 cups of coffee. Some of you heard me talk about this, but it goes back to what I just closed with, the choice versus time management. Because when things in your life seem almost too much to handle, and when 24 hours in a day are not enough, remember this story. A professor stood before his philosophy class and had some items in front of him. When the class began, wordlessly, he picked up a very large and empty mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. Once he had filled it with golf balls, he then asked the students if the jar was full. They agreed that it was full with the golf balls. Then the professor picked up a box of pebbles and poured them into the jar, and he shook the jar lightly. The pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. Then he asked students again, is the jar full? They agreed that it was. The professor then next picked up a box of sand and poured it into the jar. Of course, the sand filled up everything else, and he asked once more if the jar was full. The students responded with a unanimous, yes, now it's full. The professor then produced 2 cups of coffee from under the table and poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand. The students laughed. Now, said the professor, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. I would also say the 12-week year. The golf balls are the important things. Your spiritual life, your family, your children, your health, your friends, and your favorite passions. Things that if everything else was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other things that, of course, matter, like your income, your job, your career, your house, your car, your transportation. The sand is everything else. That represented the small stuff. If you had put the sand into the jar first, there's no room for the pebbles or the golf balls. And oftentimes you hear the phrase, don't sweat the small stuff, but a lot of us do. We overthink, right? Same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on that small stuff, you'll never have room for the things that are important to you. So maybe in 2022, pay attention to the things that are critical for your happiness, your health. Play with your children, get that medical checkup, take your partner out to dinner, play another 18 holes of golf. There'll always be time to clean the house and fix the disposal. So take care of those golf balls first. I called them in this presentation the big rocks. Those are the things that really matter. If you set your priorities, if you set healthy boundaries and protect those priorities, the rest is just sand. One of the students then raised their hand and inquired, what was the coffee all about? What was that he had put into the jar? The professor smiled and said, I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show you that no matter how full life may appear or seem, there's always room for a couple cups of coffee.